A lot to say about what it means to be a man. The guys that you hang out with at school, I tell you that to be a man, you've got to hit back if somebody hits you, right? That's the way the game is played in the world. But Jesus asks us the question, who's the stronger guy? The guy who lashes out in anger? Or the guy who has the ability to step back and go, I don't need this, and to walk away? Who's the stronger man? It means to be a godly man. I want to talk a little bit about women and our treatment of them as men. I want you to imagine the girls you know. I want you to imagine the women that you're aspiring to go out with or aspiring to hang with or aspiring to do whatever you're doing with. And I want you to consider something. If God loves you as much as God loves you, how much does God love them? And if you want to grow up to be a godly man, I want to give you a view of what it means to treat women that probably goes against 95% of what you see on TV, 95% of what you hear in the movies, 95% of what you guys deal with at school. Okay? And I want to get right up in your face. Women, for those of you that want to be godly men, women were not put on this earth for us to use. Whenever God chooses to put somebody in our lives, He's asking us to be stewards of those lives. You know what I mean by the word steward? Here's an example. How many of you are driving a car owned by your parents? Did you get the speech? Okay? This is not your car, this is my car, and you have the privilege to use this car as long as you take care of it, right? As long as you return it to me at the end of the day in as good a shape or maybe even better shape than I gave it to you at the beginning of the day. That was the speech I gave my daughters, right? That's what it means to be a steward of somebody else's stuff. Your parents are allowing you to be a steward of that car, and their expectation is that you will take good care of that thing. Guys, if God sees fit to put a woman in your life, it's just like He was saying to you. Here is this precious creation that I have made, that I have dreams for, and I'm going to entrust that person to you. And I'm going to hold you accountable for the way that you are a good steward of that girl's heart. I've heard Dave Ludwig quoted by a couple of you guys who said Dave's advice is to always make sure that any girl who's in a relationship with you ends up better than she was before she was in that relationship. I don't know if I quoted you exactly right, but I've heard people say that. Dudes, that's exactly the way to live life. That whether it's a prom date, whether it's a girlfriend, whether it's somebody that you just have a casual friendship with, God has put that person in your life, and He's trusting that girl to you. He's saying, how are you going to take care of my precious creation? That's what it means to be a godly man. If you were going to date one of my daughters, that's exactly the speech I would give you if you came into my house. I'd say, at the end of the night, you better return this girl better off than I'm handing her to you now. That's exactly what God's saying. Guys, here's what I want you to hear. I'm going to shut up and let us talk about that. You guys can tell me I'm full of it. We can maybe talk about our own experiences, answer some questions. There is only one man that will never disappoint you. That's Jesus Christ. You may have the greatest dad in the world. He will disappoint you. You may have a really crappy relationship with your dad. You already know what that means. You may already be looking for some other guy. Tim Story, Dave Ludwig, Jason Griffiths. You know what? As cool as they are, as good as they are, they will disappoint you. And they're godly men. You go away to college and join a fraternity. Those guys will disappoint you. I don't need to tell you this. You already know this. You've already lived life long enough to know what it feels like to be disrespected or blown off or abandoned by a friend. Am I right? The only man that you can choose to follow as a role model in life that will never disappoint you and that always has your best interest in mind. And I know this sounds weird because we're not used to talking about Jesus as a guy, as a man, but he was. In fact, Jesus as a carpenter would have been not somebody who just builds shelves and stuff like that, but he would have been a guy who worked with stones. Stand up. What's your name again?
Levi.
Levi, will you stand up a minute? Will you just kind of show us how you're cut? I know this is a little bit weird for guys. That's what Jesus, I'm serious, that's what Jesus would have looked like. Working with stones. It'll look a little bit more Middle Eastern, but
there he is.
I'm serious. Y'all see the picture of Jesus with like the lamb around his, you know, the nice wimpy Jesus who doesn't look like he could punch a hole in paper? That's not Jesus. Jesus was a guy. Jesus was the only guy who was ever going to be a role model that will never disappoint you. He will always have your best interest in mind. So understand who you are. A young man about to become a man, created by God. And there is nobody in the world that God loves more than you. You've been equipped, if you have a relationship with Jesus, to grow into that man, a godly man. And to live then as a godly man, not by a list of things you shouldn't do, but by a list of things that you want to do because it will help you grow to become the kind of man that you've already been created to be. And since this is a relationship series, and we're talking about what it means to be in a relationship and what it means to how to treat the women that the Lord will eventually put in your lives, it is an incredible thing for the Lord to come to you as a godly man. Say, you know what? This is my precious child. I'm going to entrust her heart to you. How are you going to take care of it? Is that heart going to be better off for having spent time as your girlfriend or your friend or your wife? That's what it means to be a godly man.